So let's talk about boundaries and specifically the most important boundary work for fearful avoidance. Fearful avoidance, until you actually have boundaries and learn healthy boundaries in life, will end up in cycles of overgiving in relationships, feeling taken advantage of, then actually trying to pull back or push somebody away as a means to equilibrate and protect yourself. And sometimes that will be done through volatility or expression of frustration in an unhealthy way. And then you'll usually go back into feeling guilty again because of the way that you acted and proceed to overgive and repeat the cycle. And if we don't have authentic boundaries, we are not being our authentic selves. If we're not sharing and telling our true yeses and nos with people, then we're actually showing up with a mask on and we are preventing other people in our lives and relationships from truly seeing us, knowing us, understanding us, and thus we will feel a lack of true connection in a variety of different forms. So I really want to stress that while a boundary can feel like a separation, a boundary is actually a joining. It's you being able to show up as your truest, most authentic version of you and share that version with other people so that they can understand you, know what you need, what is okay with you and what's not, and take you into consideration. Now, one of the most interesting things about all of this, before we go into the actual really important pieces of boundary work to do, is that fearful avoidance often feel like people betray their trust when they violate their boundaries. Part of trust is built on feeling like people will consider us, will take our feelings, our needs, our emotions into consideration. But if we're hiding that, if we're not sharing those truths, then we're not giving people the opportunity to do so. And that will lead to, again, feeling like people don't care about you or that you can't trust them or that people are just out to get you or take what they can from you. And so it accidentally keeps the cycle alive at a subconscious level. So boundary work is one of the top 3 or 4 most important things for fearful avoidance to work on when it comes to becoming securely attached. And there are different types of boundaries that we have. We have time boundaries, which is pretty self explanatory, emotional boundaries, which is like how much emotional energy you give to people or how much of other people's emotions and feelings you take on and identify with and make yours. We have mental boundaries, which are boundaries with our thoughts, our opinions, our beliefs, our ideas. We have physical boundaries like physical space, physical body. We have sexual boundaries around sex and intimacy. And we have material boundaries, which it can include boundaries around our belongings, boundaries around money, finances in general. And where fearful avoidance have the most work to do is in 4 key areas. But again, I can't stress enough that boundary work is massive for fearful avoidance to become secure and to really uproot a lot of these different pain points and challenges they feel around trust, around feeling wanted and loved and seen and considered. Um, so the first thing is fearful avoidance tend to not really have conscious time boundaries. By the way, as I go through all of this, we have a full boundaries course you can check out for free for 7 days that literally takes you through everything: how to audit your boundaries, how to know where you're struggling with boundaries, how to recondition your fears around boundaries, and how to actually do exposure work, like reprogramming work on setting boundaries. So, anyways, you can check that in the link below if this is a big challenge for you and if you just want to get through this and get quicker to becoming secure and not have to deal with these pain points over and over again. So anyways, the first thing is fearful avoidance tend to struggle with time boundaries, meaning they can overgive their time to other people, and then undergive time to themselves or not advocate for their needs around what they need for time from others. And so an example of this could be that you find yourself constantly driving your friend around, dropping them off, picking them up, sitting with them as they share their emotional woes with you, and giving all of your time to like help them, support them, helping them with their work or their future or your opinions about things, helping them, tidy their house or their garage. Like there might be a series of different things where you pour your time in, but that then don't ask for time back or don't include like your needs into that time that you're giving. And that can lead you feeling eventually to feel taken advantage of, or like a relationship is one-sided. And the painful part about that is then you'll often give it meaning, like, oh, nobody cares about me, I'm not loved, I'm not considered. Whereas so much of actually shifting out of that will be for you to express yourself, express your needs, know your needs and your boundaries, and make space for them and say no when things aren't convenient for you. Number two is emotional boundaries. Now, this can go hand in hand with like listening to friends or people in your life who are constantly unpacking stuff and kind of emotionally dumping stuff onto you, but it can also just be how much you take on other people's emotions. One huge thing fearful avoidants do all the time is they tend to take on emotions from other people and tell big, elaborate stories about how much someone else is suffering, and then feel like, oh my goodness, I can't deal with how much they're in pain. And out of their own feelings of guilt and sadness that they are almost creating subconsciously by telling these sad stories about other people's circumstances, then like run themselves dry trying to cope with that or fend for that person. And on one level, being empathetic, being compassionate, being supportive are beautiful qualities. But also, sometimes we make like mountains out of molehills. Sometimes you imagine that somebody's suffering so much when really they're just going through a hard time in life that maybe they're being called to because they have some things to work on or it's going to help grow them in certain ways. And I find that fearful avoidants are so afraid of other people being in pain that they will go to, because if we really, really get honest, other people being in pain causes you to feel pain about other people being in pain, and is a means to cope with your own pain about others because you're struggling with emotional boundaries. You will do all these different things to try to get rid of your pain through trying to solve things for that person. And really, it's like your fears of other people being in pain and what you make that mean that's at the root. That's all in the boundaries course if you want to check it out. It's kind of a mind warpy concept. And obviously, we only have like 8 or 10 minutes in a video. So I try to, give the simple stuff in these videos and then the in-depth stuff in the courses. So anyway, so emotional boundaries is a huge place to focus. And then the other part is fearful avoidants have to learn to get back into their body so that they can know what their boundaries are in real time and they can be connected to their feelings in real time and then consider themselves. The art of boundary setting means the art of being able to take yourself into consideration. It means when somebody says, hey, can you do this? You don't just have an automatic yes or an automatic no. You're able to tune in and be like, hey, can I do that? How am I feeling about that? Does that work for me? Does that work for my time? If you're not sure in real time, say, hey, let me get back to you. It's that ability to get connected to yourself and where you're at, and then make choices accordingly. And number four, in order to do this, we often have to reprogram our fears of saying no. Fearful avoidants often have these huge fears. If I say no, that person can't do it on their own. If I say no, that person will be terribly sad and it will be my fault. If I say no, I'm responsible for how that person feels, and that makes me a bad person. So there are usually a lot of limiting beliefs that cause us to avoid setting boundaries. And those limiting beliefs have to be surfaced to the conscious level of mind and reprogrammed using specific reconditioning tools. They're all in that boundary course. Check it out. If this is something you need to work on, you can literally get through it in the 7 days. It's like very comprehensive. It's like an hour and a half long. Check it out if you struggle with this. Having healthy boundaries will change your life. And especially as a fearful avoidant, it's a huge, huge point of growth. And you can't really become securely attached and feel like relationships reach the potential that they're meant for unless boundaries are part of that mix. So I hope this all makes sense. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening and for being here. Please subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video, and check out all of our other content that we have, especially in PDS if you want to do a deeper dive. And that is it for today, and I will see you in the next video.